Right now, let's have a warm welcome for a friend of the show and a regular contributor, United States Senator James Lankford. Senator Lankford, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Good morning to you.
All right, usually we do you on a Thursday. You join us on about the first Thursday of each month. We moved it up a day because you're going to be actually in western Oklahoma today, correct?
I am. I was in Lawton all day yesterday. I'm in Weatherford all day today, and just getting a chance to visit with a bunch of folks, see what's going on, get a chance to listen in, what families are experiencing. Then I'm back to votes next week back in D.C. So this 1 week I'm back in town. We're not voting, and I'm trying to get around and get a chance to listen. As
you were in Lawton yesterday, had a chance to talk to some people. Were there any recurring concerns, themes, or questions they kept peppering you with?
Everybody wants to talk about the presidential election right now. When that comes up, that never goes away. It's funny. I've called Trump the boomerang in every conversation. That it seems to come into the conversation. Somebody says, let's talk about something different, throw it out of the circle. 10 minutes later, that conversation comes right back. And so that's pretty constant. A lot of folks want to talk about where we are in foreign policy in Iran and what's going to happen in the rest of this year. There's a lot of budget issues that still need to be addressed, and a lot of folks have questions about that.
We'll get to some current topics in just a moment, but when you're going to Weatherford today, you'll speak to the Rotary Clubs, is that correct?
I will. Yeah, I'm speaking to the Rotary Club, visiting with folks on campus today at Southwestern, and I'll be out. We've got what we call a community conversation, which is a town hall meeting. That happens at 2:30 today as well. There at City Hall. So we've got lots of times that we're getting a chance to wander around town as well as stopping back in. I've got some folks that I know at First Baptist Church going to stop in and get a chance to see. I've got folks at Stafford Museum we're going to get a chance to stop in and see. But we'll be around town all day.
Well, without giving away the entirety of it, can you just give us a flavor of what you're going to say at the Rotary Club?
Oh, yeah. I'll talk about where we are economically and what are the big issues we're facing right now. You get past elections and people get consumed with that, the sport of it. The real issue, we got to deal with things like regulations and how much control the federal government's really going to have of our daily life. Is this going to be a decision that we want somebody in D.C. To make for us, or are we going to try to make these ourselves? And we have to make those decisions, quite frankly, ourselves. And that involves a lot of push and pull and local controversy. But at the end of the day, we want Oklahomans to decide for Oklahomans what we're going to do rather than have somebody out of state do it. And that's going to be a big push. It's a lot of what I work on a lot, period, because I chair the Regulatory Affairs Committee in the Senate, and so spend a lot of time on that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I think it was Monday of this week, we did a story on this particular show. I got it from Rig Zone, and it was hearkening back to the automotive bailout a few years ago. And with the current downturn in the energy industry, specifically oil and gas, the question was asked to people inside the energy industry, what can the government do to help? And the answer came back from several, well, the best thing they can do is just leave us alone.
Yep, get out of the way. That's exactly right. And most of the economic development that could happen in America right now is being slowed down by someone in D.C. and some bureaucracy or some place that's creating some regulation to quote-unquote help us that actually slows down the economy more and more. When it takes a long time to get a loan because somebody in D.C. has to check off on it, when it takes a long time to be able to start a new energy project because somebody in D.C. has to check on it rather than somebody locally, you get in line. And when you're in line waiting in D.C., you're in a very long line. And so those are best decisions that are made locally. And you talk about energy topics in D.C. I mean, Hillary Clinton is now having to defend as she goes to West Virginia for a primary her statement, we're going to put coal miners out of business. That's a perspective of someone to say, when I get to Washington, I'm going to run this industry and I'm going to close it down is what I'm going to do because that's what I want to do. Now, that may not be what America wants, but that's what that particular candidate wants to do, which gives the opinion D.C. is going to run this. Well, that's exactly the wrong direction that we need to go. This doesn't need to be a D.C. needs to run it, and if I don't like it, I'll shut it down. This needs to be Americans run it, and we want an opportunity to have good energy.
We're talking to United States Senator James Lankford, Republican of Oklahoma City, here on the Big Chief Plant Services Exploring Energy Show. Senator Lankford, tell me about the Energy Modernization Act of 2016.
Well, there's two energy bills that have been out on the floor of the Senate in the last month or so. One of them was an energy modernization. That bill really focuses a lot on energy efficiency to say how can we make the United States more energy efficient. It focuses a lot on alternative energies. It focuses a lot on, as I said, trying to make sure that we don't waste energy, which none of us want to waste energy. The challenge of it is who pays for energy efficiency. That particular bill focuses, again, on the federal taxpayer. So literally, I'm helping pay for my next-door neighbor's energy efficiency. If they want to be more energy efficient, I think that's a good thing for the country and a good thing for their family, but they should also pay for it. It shouldn't be me. So I could not support that one. And to say it's a good thing to have energy efficiency, it's a bad thing to make the next door neighbor pay for theirs. The second energy bill that's out there right now is what's called an energy appropriations bill, and that deals with a lot of nuclear policy. It deals with a lot of how we're handling the Department of Energy as well as the Corps of Engineers. And anyone who's done any development in energy knows how important the Corps of Engineers and their permitting process really is. And that's on the floor of the Senate actually right now.
All right, let's talk about Iran, a story that we talked about this on the show. I think it was late last week. We talked about Iran and the United States purchasing Iran's heavy water. Explain to us what the heavy water is and how it's relevant to energy, but also to national security.
Well, those of us in Oklahoma are used to hard water. This is not hard water with calcium, and this is heavy water that's made from plutonium reactions. And that heavy water is not nuclear material. It's not a dirty bomb. It's not radioactive in that sense, but it is a necessary element for a lot of production. So, for instance, a lot of computer chips and such, a lot of engineering products are made with heavy water as one of the ingredients. So it's a common commercial ingredient, but it's also used in nuclear research. If you're going to do nuclear research, you want to have this particular type of heavy water. Well, in the president's deal that he made with Iran, he limited the amount of heavy water, quote unquote, that they could produce and have on site. And one of the things that he did last week, or I guess a week and a half ago now, is he announced that we're going to start buying Iran's nuclear water. So we're not just going to limit what they can have. We're actually going to send American tax dollars to Iran and to say, you can't have this anymore. In fact, we'll pay you for it. Now, that may sound like one of those ideas. We'll say, well, they got to get rid of it, so let's go ahead and just buy it, and we'll be done with it. Problem with that is we're not buying all of it. Literally, Secretary of Energy Moniz announced, we've tested this product. It's a good product. They're heavy water from Iran, and we're going to stop buying heavy water from Canada, where we currently buy heavy water, and we're going to start buying it from Iran, and we're encouraging other countries and companies to do the same. I absolutely went ballistic because the issue is now we're telling our allies, hey, we're not going to support you. We're going to support Iran instead, and on top of that, we're trying to tell every other country to do the same. I don't want to send American tax dollars to Iran to buy some product that they shouldn't have in the first place, so we can try to satisfy some sort of agreement that I think is a bad agreement. So that's a major point of contention right now in the Senate. The interesting thing is the Democrats are blocking the appropriations bill right now. They don't want to vote on that issue. They just want that issue to go away. And we have said, no, this is important to the American tax dollars. This is an important policy issue. We should not send American tax dollars to the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, that is Iran. There's no way we should do that. And so that'll be an ongoing fight here for a while. It's $9 million, which in our budget, you and I, that's a whole lot of money. In the federal budget, that's not very much at all. But it does matter just in the philosophy of it, of what are we going to do with Iran? Are we going to send American tax dollars to them?
Well, Senator Lankford, why does the administration want to do this? Why do they want to do business with Iran as opposed to Canada?
Well, the president and the Secretary of Energy says they want to bring Iran into the club of nations, and that they believe that they will be a good partner at some point if we'll just start treating them better. Iran has done absolutely nothing to change their behavior. This is the president's philosophy of, if I open up my fist and show you an outstretched hand, you'll let go of your fist and you'll shake my hand. The problem is Iran hasn't let go of their fist. In fact, I asked the Director of National Intelligence for the president. His name is Jim Clapper. He is the president's Director of National Intelligence. Has there been any change in Iran's behavior as the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world? Have you seen any changes in Yemen and Bahrain and Syria and all the Hezbollah, all the areas where they're promoting terrorism since the nuclear agreement was signed? He said publicly, no, there's been no change in Iran. We signed the agreement, but Iran has made no changes at all. This is one more of those steps that the president just philosophically believes that we should be nice to Iran and they will change behavior. I don't think they change behavior based on being nice. I think they change behavior based on strength.
Talking to United States Senator James Lankford, Republican of Oklahoma City, here on the Big Chief Plant Services Exploring Energy Show. We're just about out of time, but my last question for you has to deal with something other than energy. I want to talk to you just a little bit about the Supreme Court. When Justice Scalia died a few months ago, President Obama nominated, was it Garland? Merrick, is that his name?
Merrick Garland.
Excuse me, Merrick Garland. Got it backwards. Merrick Garland nominated him to fill that vacancy, and you actually recently met with him. How did that meeting go?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so in February when Justice Scalia passed away, a whole group of us, Inhofe and I included, announced that we should not make a change in the Supreme Court this year. That no matter who the president nominates, this is not the year during a presidential election year, especially right in the middle of the campaign, to make a change in the Supreme Court. We'll allow the American people to decide this, and whoever the American people pick, that's who's going to pick the Supreme Court justice and will determine the direction of the court. That's the way it should go. So then the president, after that, then nominated Merrick Garland. And Merrick Garland, somebody that's been very, very engaged in Oklahoma for a while. In fact, during the bombing in 1995 at the Murrah Building, Merrick Garland was the lead person from the Department of Justice that came from D.C. to actually help with the prosecution and all the evidence gathering and such, and work with the relationships with the FBI and local law enforcement. So he was very important to Oklahoma. So as soon as we saw that it was Merrick Garland, I announced immediately, I will meet with Merrick Garland to be able to talk to him about the bombing, but not about the Supreme Court, because that hasn't changed for me at all. So I'm glad to be able to look him in the face, as I did last week when we sat down for about 45 minutes, talked about his role in the investigation. And during no time during the conversation did we talk about the Supreme Court, did we talk about judicial issues, because that wasn't the reason we met. But he is a person worthy of our gratitude for what he did for Oklahoma after the bombing, but he's not a person that I would pick for the Supreme Court, nor would he be somebody that I'd go through the hearing process even on. So we're trying to be kind to him as Oklahomans are, but also very, very clear that this is not moving forward.
United States Senator James Lankford making a western Oklahoma swing this week, yesterday in Lawton, today in Weatherford. Senator, tell everybody in Weatherford, Oklahoma that Exploring Energy says hello. Thanks for carving time out of a busy schedule, and we'll plan on talking to you next month, okay?
Sounds great. Take care.
Thank you.